we're back. Yes, we're back. I just got back from UK PonyCon 2024, where they were celebrating their 20th anniversary of holding the annual convention. It was my first ever time going to any level of pony-themed convention. I've always dreamed about doing something like that since I was a little boy, growing up with My Little Pony, and this was my first. And I will admit, before going, I was extremely nervous, but it ended up being the best 2 days of my entire life. And I am very excited to go again. I already put up some of the cool stuff that I bought on my wall. Here that is now. And here are a few of the pictures of what I got up to during the event. So now that we're back and things can continue on, why don't we get into this video? Give a like and subscribe for more of the content. My Little Pony is a pretty big franchise, if you didn't already know, and over the, 40 years? That's really old. Over the 40 years it's been running, it's had multiple versions of it. These are called generations. The first generation, which was from 1986 to 1992, the second, which was just an obscure point-and-click game, the third one, which lasted from 2003 to 2009, the fourth, which lasted from 2010 to 2019, and the soon-to-be ending fifth, which started in 2021 and ending this year. Generation 3 is easily the most hated generation of all of them, getting most of its hate during the Generation 4 era, Friendship is Magic, where bronies were popping up left and right. Many people in the brony fandom don't seem to know that Gen 3 was popular enough for conventions, including the one I just attended, to have started during Gen 3 before Friendship is Magic even existed. So there was clearly enough fans for there to be something out there. That said, it got a lot of hate for its art style, which more resembled Generation 1 ponies, and its writing, which was slower and a little more simplistic because it was a show for children, but it took on a more slice-of-life feel than anything else, which, of course, a lot of people didn't like. Now, while it is the most hated, it is the second longest running one in all of the generations, coming in at a good old 6 years worth of runtime, while Generation 1 and 5 only had 3 years of runtime, and Generation 4 having about 9 if you don't count spin-offs like Pony Life, which would have taken us up to 11. Generation 3 might be the second longest running in terms of airtime, but in terms of actual content to it, it's actually the shortest. Having only about 7.5 hours worth of content to its name, it can be very easily watched in a single sitting if you could find a weekend to do it. And before I left for PonyCon, that's exactly what I did. I watched all of Generation 3 in a single sitting. Now in this video, I'm going to be breaking up Generation 3 and my thoughts and review on it into 3 segments. These are 3 different versions of Generation 3 that were kind of broken up. We have the pre-Core 7 era, which is the first load of Generation 3. The Core 7 era, where they changed up Generation 3 and focused on a specific set of 7 characters. And Generation 3.5, the shortest of these 3 segments, which will cover the remake that takes on the Littlest Pet Shop style. I'm going to give my opinions on each of these and try and cover this as detailed as I can with the dead throat I have right now.
On second thought...
This is the first part of the show, and it was around from the initial release in 2003 all the way up to 2007. This era will set the expectations to come for how the plot is going to feel, alongside how episodes get handled in terms of releases. Releases for this generation were a little bit weird, in the sense that G1 was set to air on TV, and then they changed to a new style of release, which I'll go into in a second, and then they reverted back to the regular TV airings when they went with G4. This generation would only ever release its episodes, or movies if you'd rather, as DVD releases obtained by buying special My Little Pony toys that came with them, something that continued right to the very end of this generation. This era features many different ponies, some of which don't show up more than once, like Razaru, Lily Lightly, Kimono, while others such as Minty, Star Wishes, Pinkie Pie, Rainbow Dash, Rarity, and a few others will show up more consistently. The first episode is a very simple plot. The pony initially narrating for us is trying to plan a party, which is the most common occurrence ever occurring in the land of Horse.
Listen up, you young punk. I've had it up to here with your loud noise, your loud clothes, and your loud music. Now what do you have to say for yourself?
Sorry for party rocking.
She gets her friends to help her throw the party, and they can't seem to come to a good conclusion on what to do for it. Eventually, through process of elimination...
Oh, I've got it! Oh, one of you needs to come forward and volunteer. Uh-oh.
Using Minty to get an input from Kimono, the pony whose birthday it is, without giving away what's going on. Eventually, the episode ends with them putting all their ideas together, as Kimono suggested, and throwing the party for her. A very happy and simple ending. And that is effectively how the pace for the rest of the show is going to be set, with the first episode. There's no insane levels of writing, there's not a whole lot of plot. It's effectively just a very slice-of-life feeling thing with ponies doing pony things. You've probably noticed that in the background I now have nasal spray, because my cold's getting worse over the past few days, but that is neither here nor there. Many people who criticised G3 thought that the lack of writing was a massive problem, but I'm going to be completely honest when I say that it doesn't suffer from its lack of major plot. You can pretty much take it at face value and just turn your brain off while watching it and still have a really good time. I found it really enjoyable, and it's clear it doesn't suffer from its lack of massive plot development. It's just fun pony antics to turn your brain off to. One of my favourite episodes in this era was definitely A Very Minty Christmas. The plot of this one being that it's the festive season, and the ponies celebrate by putting a big candy cane on top of a Christmas tree so that Santa will find them and give them presents. Minty sees it and tries to adjust it when everyone leaves so that it's standing up straight, but ends up knocking it over and shattering it.
So, tap, and it'll be... Uh-oh! Uh-oh! Oh no!
Oh, way to go, Minty, you dumb little honce. Now I won't get my overly priced version of the console I already own. Anyway, she ends up feeling really bad about basically ruining Christmas for everyone and doing a better job of it than the Grinch. That she goes around sneaking into everyone's houses to give gifts, playing the role of Santa herself. The only gift she could come up with giving people would be her collection of socks. No, not like that, not like that, go away. Before she came to this conclusion, she did try to tell other ponies about it, but they were too busy to stop and listen. Eventually, going through the houses, she wakes Pinkie Pie up, who, after hearing what happened, is reasonably annoyed at her. After a short talk, Minty decides that she should go to the North Pole to find Santa and lead him to Ponyville instead of pretending to be him, which leads her and Thistle Whistle, who chased after her, almost dying. While Thistle Whistle rushes off to save Minty, Pinkie Pie informs the other residents of Ponyville what went on, and they all end up getting in balloons and flying over to the North Pole to save them. Eventually, managing to save the two, they bring them back to outside Santa's house, where they reveal that they didn't really mind so much about the presents and were more concerned about Minty's safety. Thankfully, after all of that, they get their presents in the end.
And what does every Rainbow Lights party need? Lights! Right!
The characters in this era were somewhat staggered and in some cases felt a little bit overwhelming. There's just so many of them. But with the episodic nature of this generation, you don't need to worry too much about remembering every single character. You only really need to focus on the ones that are on the screen at the moment. But not to worry, because all of the characters have a somewhat unique design and personality, which makes them all memorable and fairly enjoyable within their own right, having their own unique quirks and mannerisms. Like I said, you don't have to remember every single character, only the ones on screen depending on what episode you watch. This is because some characters will only appear once or twice, while other characters appear somewhat consistently, and a few can be in nearly every single episode. Some of the notable ones that I really enjoyed seeing was Minty, whose clumsiness captured the heart of anyone watching, Rainbow Dash, who despite all the memes about her was actually somewhat enjoyable to have around, Starcatcher, who looks like she was designed after the trans flag, no, you can't convince me otherwise, and Spike, who somehow shows up in every generation, although this one could probably use a shower.
Somebody smell like shit! Somebody smell like shit!
Okay, now I know that the art style is probably the most hated thing in G3 by many of the haters, but it actually grew on me. At first I thought the style was a little bit weird and maybe at times a little uncomfortable, but the more I watched it and got used to it, the more I genuinely came to enjoy it. The ponies' designs were obviously more resembling G1 ponies, and the 480p resolution in most of the episodes gave it that super old cartoon look to it. I genuinely enjoyed that. The backgrounds were colourful and alive, never feeling empty. The designs of the ponies are somewhat unique and memorable, other than the fact that their shape looks like an obvious copy-paste of each other. And as much as I've heard that the animation is off-putting for some, I genuinely find it endearing. It certainly has its flaws to it, some moments more noticeable than others, but I still find it to be good on the eyes most of the time.
Oh, it's beautiful and so pink. Pinkie Pie will have the best birthday surprise ever.
If I had to pick a word to describe the writing for this era, it would be simple. The writing was much more episodic with no real overarching plot, which can be a real double-edged sword in the sense there's no real story to follow, but it allows for writers to focus specifically on making that episode good, rather than keeping it consistent with other already made plot points. A good explanation for this is that it was mainly released as movies, as DVDs, rather than a simple TV show that wanted to follow a consistent plot. I don't actually mind this because the episodes as they are well written and enjoyable, so it certainly doesn't suffer from that fact. It keeps up a good slice of life feel where, sure, it has no main plot to follow. Sure, most of the story you'll get is from the plot of that episode you're watching, but it really doesn't suffer from that. It gives off a nice relaxed feel to the episodes where you can easily turn your brain off and enjoy yourself. It's effectively just ponies doing pony shenanigans, and I like that. Of course, when I say there's no overarching plot, that doesn't mean there isn't developments that carry over to other episodes. A good example being when the Pegasi and unicorns are introduced, and they stick around for almost every episode going forward. And well, there we have it, the pre-Core 7 era. I didn't go into every individual episode because this video would have taken way too long, and I want to go into each episode one by one in the near future when I'm done this general review. And maybe I'll revisit reviewing all three eras once I'm done reviewing all the episodes. I will point out that this video took so long to make that G5 is now officially done. I'll make a separate video about that later. But yeah, the animation was good and you could genuinely see improvement as it progressed. The nature of not being aired properly and only ever being brought out on DVDs was interesting, and the characters were enjoyable. Like, it genuinely was a nice, relaxed, slice-of-life feel to it that just kept me there for 7.5 hours. I'm not going to bring up the world's biggest tea party, because that's going to be its own separate thing. But keep your eye out for that and the other two videos in this review series. If you want to see gameplay videos and Let's Play content, I'm shifting them over to this channel in the live section. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content, new socials down below. I just signed up to Blue Sky and I'm loving it there, so go and say hi to me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thought I'd get you